concerns?
I have a question.
Yes.
Adoption of meeting, or the minutes. Motion was made by Councilwoman Napolitano, seconded by Councilwoman Myers. And care to adopt the October 22nd, 2018 regular executive meeting minutes of Belvedere Town Council. Now, here's what I want to bring up in the part there. It says, with the addition to the regular meeting minutes on page 16 of looked on the internet. Who actually asked for that correction, and who was it about, and what was it in reference to?
I don't understand the question. Sorry.
This is page 1 of 12 on the minutes we're going to approve.
Okay, I'm on page 1 of 12. Hey, Councilman, what are you talking about?
Give us a paragraph, please.
I just mentioned adoption of minutes. We're approving the minutes of November 14th, correct? Yeah, right there. It says the motion was made by Councilwoman Napolitano, seconded by Councilwoman Myers, and carried to adopt October 22nd, 2018 regular and executive meeting minutes of the Belvedere Town Council with the addition to the regular meeting minutes on page 16 of look on the internet. My question to you is, who actually asked for that to be added, corrected, or whatever?
You did. We did.
I asked to be, and yeah, but the thing was, I thought that what you mentioned was, I don't remember, was the actual comments by Councilman McAvoy.
That was already in the minutes.
So it was actually, the correction is looked on the internet?
I don't remember, and I looked on the internet. That's
So
what
which one is it?
I put both,
That's why,
because that's what he said.
yeah, but all I see is looked on the internet, that's why.
Because that's the only
That's
correction.
the only thing I added. Everything else remained the same.
Okay, so this was in reference to Councilman McAtora's question about where he got his information from. And he said it was looked on the internet. It wasn't exactly, I don't remember. I just want for the record, just make sure that's
No,
what it
that's
was.
not it.
What is it then? That's what
It is, I don't remember, and I looked on the internet. It's both.
Oh, it's both.
That's what I said the first time.
Thank you.
Do we have any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Abstain, I was absent.
Okay. Public comment, agenda items only. In public, agenda items only. If not, committee reports. Councilman Tucker.
Environmental. They report down November 3rd. Several individuals from the environmental attended an AMJEC's workshop, Fundamentals for Effective Environmental Commissions. They had a scheduled roadside cleanup for November 17th, had been canceled due to weather. It's going to be rescheduled for the spring. They're working on a free presentation with AmeriCorps, New Jersey Watershed Ambassador program to be held at the community center, hopefully for January 14th. And to date, they have 1,615 pounds of plastic have been collected. Let's see here. The planning board, there's 3 items that are still in continuation. It's the environmental redevelopment plan, motorcycle shop on Prospect Street, 624 Water Street renovation plans, metal fab company renovation plans. And the only new item for the planning board was the RV ordinance that they're going to review and compare to a copy of Clinton Township's ordinance for comparison and any amendments that need to be made. Shade tree, I think a lot of us probably noticed that there was work being done in the town, tree trimming, tree removal, stump grinding, and Mr. Myers mentioned that they had some last-minute landscaping, tree trimming, and mulching that they actually did themselves. Let's let's see, historic, there was no pending matters, so they didn't have a meeting. And that's it.
Councilman Roth.
The report from the ambulance squad for the month of October, they had 102 calls, which continues to be about what they're averaging each month. Missed calls was way down, only about 31%, which is a tremendous improvement over the prior months. So the actions that they said they were going to take seem to be helping, along with the longer-term plans we discussed at the last meeting. So I was very pleased to see that. Nothing new to report from the fire company, other than they're having their holiday gathering in a week or so.
Thank you. Councilwoman Myers.
For recreation, the tree lighting is December 1st, this Saturday, from 5 to 7. There'll be the Trappers Train, Lions Club is going to provide cookies and hot chocolate. There'll be hot dogs, cider, and Santa will be there. And they're offering for sale or order in advance as well, 8 luminaries for $10. So we're trying to get as many people to get their neighborhood lit up on Christmas Eve and whatever day they pick. So those will be available as tree lighting as well. And we're continuing to work on the budget. Part of what the budget summary that Christine and I requested from the department heads is to help look at what they requested, what they spent in that requested area, and was it, if it went over, was it due to price increases, so that we can get a better handle on doing the budget going forward, rather than just saying, oh, well, they only spent this much, so they don't need that much. Well, maybe they didn't spend that much because, in Matt's case, he stopped getting things that he needed because he had to buy a server. So we just want to, we're trying to use that as a vehicle to be able to prepare better for the budget. That's it.
Thank you. Councilwoman Napolitano.
Yes, regarding our leaf pickup, they tried to clean up as much as they could prior to the storm that hit, and clearly that was a storm we were not anticipating. In our project area, Jason actually gave notices to all of the residents once they cleaned up to please not, and they still, more leaves did come out, most unfortunately, but they are going to get out as of tomorrow, hopefully, and get out and get working on, of course it rained today, more leaf pickup. Our road project's going along well. Wednesday's the date for paving, and that would be on Hardwick 2nd. Our storm, the fellows did a phenomenal job. Minor equipment issues, just a few basketball hoops left out. I think Mr. Rossi's done a good job on that. And not too many cars were left on the road, so he was pleased. The office trailer that's on site, John's moving into slowly, the computer and printer in there, they do have power, and slow but sure they're making their way in there. Christmas decorations, the wreaths will go out Thursday, and tomorrow the fellows are working on the trees. And that'll do us.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman. Councilman McIntyre.
Okay, for the police department, we had 342 calls of service. The larger numbers are thefts over $50. We had 3 alarms. We had 13 medical assists, 26. Selective enforcement, we had 12. Traffic enforcement stops, 81, which is a very high number for a small town. That's third-party overtime details, 8. Civil matters, 12. I want to touch on the third-party overtime details because this became an issue today. We had an officer that sat out on a traffic detail for over 3 hours. All right, totally unacceptable. When we had an officer that should not have been out there. The contractors know when they bid a job, they bid it. If DOT requires that we have to shut down a roadway and we need an officer, it's built into the bid. In this particular case, it wasn't. And my argument is, if you're going to take that officer off of our streets for 3 hours, we are not following up on criminal investigations, burglaries, whatever else that they can be doing. We're such a small staff department, we need every hour we can to complete our tasks. So I'm a little bit frustrated with that, and hopefully as we go forward, we can rectify it. As far as the courts, we are still looking at another entity to allow us to collect fees using, obviously, credit cards. Presently, we only accept through Whitetown, or, I'm sorry, Belvedere. So hopefully that's going to be changed. I know myself, Councilman Napolitani, along with our court staff, have sat with the bank. And I know the mayor has brought back additional literature from the League of Municipalities. So we're definitely looking at expanding that to bring in the revenue from the other municipalities, which will make it a lot more seamless and a lot less money that the law enforcement has to change after later on down the road. Additionally, we're still looking at hopefully getting a fourth court. That contract has gone out. We have not heard back, but you know, with a lot of luck, that will be you know, something that will come into fruition, which will also bring additional revenue to us. Even though the courts aren't made to necessarily be money generating, but we sure as heck don't want them to be a drain on the town. So if we can come out at the end of the year with a zero balance, saying, okay, it cost us this much expenditures, and you know, it wiped out because of these, but that would be a great thing. So that's what we're trying to achieve, and you know, hopefully 2019 will be a big year. That's all I have.
What's your total calls? I missed that number.
I'm sorry?
The total calls, I missed that number.
342. Now,
Thank you.
These are 911 centers.
Thank you, Councilman McAtoor. Just let me just say a couple of things that may make you happy, may make you a little bit more upset. But we will talk about the PD traffic control situation see me after the meeting, and I'll enlighten you who was notified, when they were notified, and how many times they were notified, because it was part of the pre-construction meeting twice, and it was very clear as to the town of Belvedere was going to partake in traffic control. So after the meeting, I will make sure you get paperwork and let you know who was informed and when they were informed.
Sounds great, Mayor.
I won't discuss it any further than that, other than
Well,
that.
no, that's not fair. That's not fair. You're
Yeah.
throwing it out there on the tape for the public to hear.
Yeah.
I want us, the public, to know that
Yeah,
as police commissioner or police chief,
right.
they weren't advised of it.
Your police chief was notified of it because I personally notified him,
I totally
as
disagree.
well as I personally notified the DPW director. I
I-
had a meeting with him and specifically had the DPW director meet with the PD. Now, whether he did or not, I cannot confirm. But during the pre-construction meetings,
You know,
okay, during the pre-construction meetings, one of which Councilman Znigsbrowski was out at, that part of the reduction of the cost of that contract was because our DPW director volunteered to do traffic control. Am I correct?
If I may, real quick, I believe the DPW was down a guy today.
Yes, he's
Dave-
on jury
Dave-
duty.
I
Dave
I
was
have
off.
no idea.
He's on
Yes,
jury
But
duty.
if you would have called me ahead of time, I could have explained this a little bit more clear. But since you want to throw it out on the table, that's
No,
fine. I have no problem with it.
The DP, I was there when it all went down. The DPW asked the police for a courtesy.
Well, that I can't control. All I can tell you is the parties were informed. They've been informed more than once. It was under the auspice of the DPW director because he was at the pre-construction meeting. He actually went out 6 weeks ago and proper signage made up for the particular job. So again, if you want to discuss it further after the woods, I'm not going to get into pointing fingers at who knew and who didn't know. And I think Councilman McGrathy just pretty much cleared it up by saying DPW requested a courtesy help. At that point, if the DPW director requested a courtesy help and the chief acknowledged it, well then your issue is with the chief, not with this council.
that's not.
In reference to the court, I agree with Councilman McAtoor. They've done a phenomenal job in the last 2 or 3 years bringing these other courts on. Before these other courts were merged, if most people remember, our court was actually costing us several thousands of dollars a year. I mean, multiple thousands of dollars a year. So by bringing in these current courts we have, and hopefully Oxford's court, as Councilman McAtoor said, it's going to leave us a zero balance, which is very important. Councilman McGrathy.
I went to 3 meetings, since our last meeting here. The community center meeting, a pool meeting, a rec, committee meeting. I mean, everybody at the community center just does a fantastic job, just really, really good people, giving a lot of time, doing great things there. Rec committee was a short meeting. They were just kind of commenting on their motorcycle event and how that went well. Pool, not too much there. Since the last meeting, we had an actual budget report, final budget report. So after tomorrow's meeting, I'll be able to get a clear understanding of how everything is and bring that back.
Thank you very much. I don't believe we have any correspondence. Teresa, correct?
No, nothing.
I do have a letter that was dropped off to me from a resident that I'm going to have the town clerk copy and register, so it's a partition for a number of residents who want natural gas on the upper part of Hardwick Street from 3rd Street up. So we're going to take this in, stamp it, date it, then we'll get a hold of Tyler Kemp. I'll speak to Mr. Roth about it, and later on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Previous business, open items. I don't have any open items at this time that I wish to discuss. Sewer Appeals Committee, do we want to touch bases on that at all?
I've heard nothing from either Paul Sturman's, well, I think the definition of an EDU was in Paul's court the last we discussed it.
Yeah, and I talked to the mayor about this prior to the meeting. I think, yeah, the number at some point, if we're going to adjust, I think at this point the ordinance is working. We've made some minor amendments, and I think we've, the sewer committee and all of our meetings with the other professionals, we're going to stick with an EDU-based system. So I don't know how much, if any, additional tweaking is going to be necessary. So my focus for January is going to be to touch base through Laurel with Brian Tipton. I'd like to see what we can do about, if there is one, it's probably very old. We should probably get an updated agreement with Pruma on the meter ring. Have a little better understanding of how they're billing us. And again, just get it down in writing so it's up record. And then if we want to tweak the EU's formula, if you will.
Yeah, so the formula, I think that was what the initiation of this whole
Yeah.
process was, that our ordinance had a lot of question, not I would say questionable, but difficult to understand and convey into a billing format, how to bill,
And I'm good.
and let everybody qualify
And I
for
told
it.
Mayor I would check with Dawn, but I think that the tweaks that we made were definitional in nature, if you recall.
Right,
And I think they've been pretty useful in cleaning things up and getting the ordinance really consistent, basically, with how we have been billing anyway.
okay.
And so, I think that's where we are.
Yeah, and as she said, the tweaking on the EDUs, what we want to do is not have a portion. We want to either round it up or let it round it down. We don't want to have
Yeah,
half
and I think
or
we
something.
eliminate all partial
All
billing with the
fractions.
exception
Yeah,
of
fractions of it, yeah.
a one-bedroom apartment. I think there's still 0.8.
I think you're right.
If you want to move away from that and just go make an EDU billing, a one unit, that's an easy thing we can do.
Okay.
That we theoretically get that done.
Yeah, because the mixed use was the one I think that was the most problematic.
Mixed use, we
That's
took care
also,
of.
yes.
We also took care of flow-based, we eliminated all references to flow-based billing because there was a reference to that. There was not, if you recall, there were two categories. You pay
Right.
by number of employees, or there
Or
was
water.
flow-based billing
Right.
with a minimum of one EDU. That's been eliminated. So we have cleaned it up pretty substantially, I think. If there's some consensus to get rid of the fractional billing for the one-bedroom apartment, that's an easy one I could potentially address.
I just think it should be whole numbers, but
I
agree,
it's a
yeah.
personal.
I agree.
No, I don't think anybody.
That would
disagrees
certainly
with
make
that.
billing
He's
easier.
talking about
Make it a lot easier.
22%, and I think it would spread it out fairly.
And then next year, again, we can look into, if you want, as a council, we could potentially explore, some other potential EU adjustments for seniors or whatever.
Seniors and
There are
veterans.
some things we could do to tweak it that some other ordinances do provide for. And I'll bring that, I'll have that for the next meeting. That's an easy thing that I can do, has been
Okay.
determined. As I said, I don't really want to get into setting a new calendars figure for an EDU, that's.
Not yet, no.
but,
All right.
And that would stay the same for billing at this point, as far as I can see going forward.
Okay.
That's the next year.
Does council have any questions on that? What we're talking about as far as the cleaning up and closing out and finalizing the sewer, as I stated at the last meeting, that this was going to be it, to bring closure to it. Does anybody else have any comments on the point eight or the EDUs or the clarification from Puma Morgan? You'll handle that with Brian, right?
Yes, I have no problem. Again, we don't have any, I think that, I would just like to memorialize how they're doing meter maintenance. I know that I do know from Paul checking into it that they're actually giving us an average, they're doing a 4-year rolling
That's
average
correct,
of the
a
sewer.
4-year average, that's
Just
correct.
some things that would be nice to have reduced to writing. And I know you have a couple cross connections, and it's important that those meters be functioning correctly so that the proper gallons is being backed down. So again,
Well,
I don't see any problem, it's not that we have any issue or dispute with them, it'd just be nice to kind of probably update and re-execute some
Well,
things.
again, I'll stress, that, my main point to all of this was, it's as much housekeeping on our end. And so when we move on and new people come in, this answer is resolved and it's taken care of. They have paperwork and stuff they can reflect back on. New business, December meeting schedule, Teresa?
Yes, well, our regular meeting date, excuse me, is December 10th. Councilman McIntyre does want to meet on the Christmas Eve, but so my suggestion is we need to have a year-end meeting, that the week of the 17th, if it be the 17th, that's fine. It won't be a lengthy meeting, whatever resolutions Christine may have for transfers, and we'll review the RFPs that night because they're due back on December 12th. So that'll be your RFPs for professionals. You'll have them in advance as they come in. I will be forwarding them to you by email.
So December 10th and December 17th, correct?
Yes,
We-
17th is fine with me, I don't know.
Really, I'll indicate then that will mean we're essentially done with ordinances for the year, because we won't have 10 days between meetings, which again, is not a big deal.
Right, I don't think we have anything to introduce.
No,
I
I
think
mean,
we clean up
things like that
everything.
point eight thing we were just talking about, then that would be a January change.
We
Well,
have
we
our
could
second
get it,
readings.
we could get it done by, like, the billing part, or, whatever.
Yeah, it's not so, like I said,
Is that the rate?
yes,
That's right.
easily the January meeting.
So December 10th, December 17th, your reorg meeting?
Well, it's up to council.
10
If you want-
it works, and as long as you're within 10 days to start a year, that's the general rule of thumb,
Yeah,
if you wanted to.
normally you would, your regular meeting will be on January 14th. So, whatever day you want to reorg is entirely up to this council, it doesn't matter to me. We can reorg on January 1 in the morning, or we can it doesn't matter.
What's council's preference?
Doesn't matter to me.
I mean, assuming we're going to keep our second and fourth Mondays, which would be the 14th and the 28th. So,
So 10 days or so?
so, 10?
And
First time.
actually, to be honest with you, town form, I don't think there's any specific statutory rule.
Okay,
There are for Faulkner Acts, and everybody generally considers the first 10 days.
so if you don't want to come out January 1st, I
What-
mean, it's not, we don't have any, I don't want to down, but we don't have anybody new coming on, or so, it's just a,
You can't wait till the 14th.
Safe and simple.
Yeah, unless we just moved our 14th meeting back a little bit or something. That way you can throw a workshop and reorg at the same time.
are you?
You want to
the 14th. But then we could meet on the 7th and the 28th.
There you go,
That's an idea,
like that.
yeah. And that would be workshop and rework.
Yeah, is that, Kevin, you're available the first Monday, Kevin?
I'm not sure, because Franklin hasn't set theirs yet, but I can probably get here for the, by the time you get done with the reorg part,
Okay.
I can probably do it right here. And last year, you didn't have me at the reorg meeting anyhow, so it's up to you guys.
No.
I mean, if you got, that's a good day for you guys, I'll try to work around it and try to make sure I can get you.
7th and 28th. Okay.
That's okay with everyone?
I don't know, I mean,
So we'll be late on the December meeting.
You guys, are you going to do it regular at 7 o'clock?
The 17th, Chairman?
I'll be a little bit late, but
You guys are going to do the reorg at normal time, so 7 p.m.
7 p.m.
7?
that's fine.
Okay.
Resolution number R 2018-X74, resolution to hire a paid part-time snow driver and shovelers as needed. Take a motion in a second.
Motion?
second.
Questions or comments?
We have a question. Mr. Benbrook,
Yes.
the first person on there, Adam Zandrowski, sits on town council, but is that a conflict or no?
Hey, Walt, just so you know, I don't charge for my time. I donate and volunteer my time.
So that's
I just-
time is how much.
I asked Mr. Benbrook.
I
Well,
understand.
the only reason is because, and I know you said in the past that you donate your time and stuff, and the reason I'm asking is because your name's there, first top of the list driver, $25 per hour, so, I mean, even if you said for free, I mean, I just want to make sure there's not we have him listed as a council person, is there a conflict?
You would have to recuse if he was going to be paid. If he's just going to donate his time, if he's putting that on the record, not going to be paid, then he could vote on the resolution.
So to answer your point, Councilman, he's just recused himself from voting.
Well, I mean, I see the $25 per hour, I don't see, work, doing
I mean,
it.
my understanding is you indicate on the record, are you donating your time for this?
I donate my time. I have for the last couple of years.
There we go. So,
Well, which quite frankly, I don't think is proper.
I think so.
I just don't think it's proper.
I think putting him on the list connects him with town insurance as well, correct? So that if anything happens, he's our employee.
Well, let me ask the council. Is there anybody on council have an issue?
We're a small town with, limited amount of
With
talent.
having a council person?
No,
I think it's great.
Is it an ethic violation?
no, you can vote, but you can't obviously.
He has to
I'll recuse from
You
the
can't vote the resolution, and obviously if there's an issue,
Unless you'd like to volunteer your time, Walt, I'm sorry.
obviously you can't be involved if there's an accident.
You'll
You
take
can't
that
be
as
involved
fine.
if there's an
That's
issue.
good. Thanks.
Good
Good man.
but he can be paid by this resolution.
Right.
If he does the work, he can be paid.
He should
Right.
be.
He should be paid, okay?
That you raise your case, Walt.
One other question before we move forward. And I said this at
Do
the
they-
last
can I ask a question?
meeting and meetings before that. It's unfortunate that our taxes are where they are right now and what the costs are. But in the past, we've encouraged our police officers, which many of them have now moved to Belvedere and live in Belvedere and work in Belvedere. It's always been my objective and my goal to give back to local business peoples, whether it's a restaurant or a diner or a church or whatever it may be. And there's nothing better, there's no more pride that I can see than having businesses and people come to this town and work in this town. Again, I'm not actually I suck as a volunteer. I'm a normal guy that likes to treat people normally, and that's why this town is such a gem. So to even have this conversation really upsets me. I mean, really, really upsets me. We can't, before I say something improper, I think, council, we know where we're at.
Kevin,
Well,
has a question.
I just was going to say, insured and everything, that's fine, okay, okay, good.
Is that okay with you all? Good with that? You good with that?
I'm gonna vote in a minute.
Okay, I just wanted to know, get any opinions.
Thank you for your concern.
I'm very concerned.
Roll call, please.
Excuse me, Councilman McIntosh.
Yes.
Councilwoman Myers.
Yes.
Councilwoman Napolitani.
Yes.
Councilman Roth.
Yes.
Councilman Tucker.
Abstain.
Councilman Zagorowski.
I'll recuse.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes. I asked council for clarification on that last vote. And again, I'm in a good mood tonight.
It's one of us.
So, my question to Councilman Tutka, do you abstain with everybody getting paid on that list in its totality? Or are you abstaining against one individual?
The whole list is fine.
The whole list?
Yes.
Okay, thank
I
you.
brought out, I'll just,
Thank you.
you said clarification?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you clarification.
Yeah.
Since you asked, I remember going back when Mr. Snyder was here, and I had asked, I noticed that there are a few names on, this is a prior list, and I mentioned to him that I would appreciate if he could try to get as many people as he could from the town first, before he go out and get people from outside the town. Maybe you just said yourself, right? Get people within our town before you go outside.
Businesses.
So without going into any detail, I mean, I see, Snyder, and some other, so yes, I abstain from the whole list.
So generally, you have problems with people on council or family members working for the town.
Well, I question if it's okay, if I'm not sure, why should I vote?
But my question
my
to you,
conscience.
my question to you was a yes or no answer.
That's right.
For what?
My question to you was a yes or no answer. You have an issue
Right.
with anyone on council or any family members that work for the town of Belvedere, working for the town of Belvedere.
Right, if I have a problem, my conscience about it, that's why I'm staying, like I'm staying from this. Right?
Okay, so your answer is yes or no. You have a problem with family members working for the town of Belvedere, or, to me,
Well, give me an
I'm
example
curious.
when you have somebody from town that's working.
it's a yes or no. You got a list. You
Right.
named Mr. Snyder's kids or somebody, I guess.
Well, I don't know.
Mrs. McGrath. So my question
Was
is,
that the,
to you, it's real simple, but I'll go
Right.
real slow this time.
yeah,
Do you have an issue
right.
with a member of this council working for the town of Belvedere, or a member of this council's family working for the town of Belvedere?
I'd have to say you'd have to give me a specific issue, and then I can tell you yes or no. A specific, like here's one right here. I don't feel comfortable saying, and I'll tell you why. Let me explain even better yet. On my piece of paper here, and I heard what Mr. Councilman Zagrowski said, that he's not going to get paid. On the paper I have in front of me, it says Adam Zagrowski, driver, $25 per hour. Mayor, you know very well that we've gotten into problems in the past about, say, verbal agreements. And here it's on paper, but yet, that's not what the situation is. He's not going to get paid $25 per hour. So why don't we have donate time? And I leave it at that. I abstain from the whole list. Let's, so we could. Thank you.
No answer to that.
Thank you.
My final
Just,
question,
for the record, Mayor.
Mr. Tucker, did your son ever work for the town of Belvedere?
Yes.
And were you on council?
No.
You were not on council?
That's not true.
No.
That's not true.
I know.
That's not true.
He
That's
worked
not
for
true.
a pool.
No. But my point is, you see how quickly somebody can give a no answer
Yeah,
or a
that's not
yes
true.
answer?
That's not true.
But.
That's because it was
Let's
specific
not waste,
questions.
let's not waste the
But
vote.
I just want to make it,
Yes.
Mayor, I just want to make,
Yeah.
in all fairness to our councilman,
Yeah.
I know for a fact that last year, how many hours that this gentleman plowed and never, ever submitted a bill to the town. Not to mention the other countless efforts that he's done for the community, whether it be through the Lions Club and everything else. So I find it really offensive for Councilman Tuckett to sit there and tout his horn like he's trying to save the town an extra $25. You should be ashamed of yourself, do your homework, and just, in the meantime, be quiet. Unless you have something to contribute, shut up. Sorry, Mayor.
Ordinance number O-2018 X11, an ordinance to repeal Article number 2, Chapter 137 of the Code of the Town of Belvedere entitled Excavations Established, a new Article 2, Street Opening Permits. Second reading, I need a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion.
Second.
This, for the public's benefit, is just updating our street opening permit ordinance to, so that all servants can properly collect fees and get bonds and so on and so forth, to make sure things are properly restored. That's what
You
this is.
explained that at the last
Okay.
meeting.
I thought I did, but
Yeah.
since it's public hearing, I just briefly said it again.
Say correct.
It's a second hearing and a second meeting, so it's got a second.
Incorrect, incorrect.
Public have any other
And
questions?
this was approved by Paul. I worked with Paul to do this, so it's.
I'll entertain a motion to close public hearing and adopt.
Motion to close public hearing and adopt.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman McAtory.
Yes.
Councilwoman Myers.
Yes.
Councilwoman Napolitani.
Yes.
Councilman Roth.
Yes.
Councilman Tucker.
Yes.
Councilman Svigrodsky.
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
It was just
I have no appointments at this time. Authorization to pay the bills, I'll entertain a motion in a second.
Make a motion to pay the bills as presented.
Second.
I'll entertain questions, comments, or corrections on the bills. If none, roll call, please.
Councilman McAtory.
Yes.
Councilwoman Myers.
Yes.
Councilwoman Napolitani.
Yes.
Councilman Roth.
Yes.
Councilman Tucker.
Abstain.
Councilman Svigrodsky.
Yes, but please recuse me on purchase order 23148, please.
23148.
Correct.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes. Thank you. Second public comment, agenda items only. Please go to the podium or you feel free to, did I say that right? Public comment?
On anything.
It's on
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Knock yourself out. I'm sorry.
It's a new official term.
Listen, I get frazzled easy these days. Second, yes, Ms. Vale.
I realize as I age, my mind and my memory start to fail me. But I thought it was the last meeting, perhaps the meeting before, you said you were going to have the guy that owns the property on the corner of Greenwich in front.
We'll come to the store.
Was that, I'm sorry,
He's gonna come to a store?
he was going to come to a meeting?
No, no. You want?
I'm sorry.
That's right,
No,
go ahead.
I do know that the mayor had said that the zoning official would be here, but he was unable to be here tonight.
Actually, all our
Okay.
department heads were supposed to be here tonight,
They're
and it was a
here
very
and
big
there.
conflict
Oh.
night for a lot of our.
So what's going on with that guy?
As soon as I get an answer from Mr. Rossi, I'm sorry, Sue, on
Oh, all right,
Friday,
all right.
I will personally give you a call.
No, that's all right. I mean,
Well, no, you're right, the
I didn't know whether I
building,
had missed it
the-
or...
well, when you look at all the revitalization and everything going on in town, that is the only area that we're really having issues with right now.
Yeah.
And the guy ought to forfeit it, sell it, whatever he wants. But we have, some serious issues here, as you know, with the sidewalk
Yeah.
and the garbage and stuff on the side of the building.
And I have to admit, from my previous life, I was never a fan of Alan Kumetz, who, as you know, is doing next to the
Correct,
Chinese restaurant.
right.
I think he's doing a fantastic job down there.
Well, I will tell you this also, Sue, he's doing a phenomenal job on that down there. But I also have to say, your due diligence and your entire historic commission and the way that you've handled things, not just with Alan this year, across the board, you're starting to develop more and more teeth. And I think that's making a significant difference.
I
you
hope
know.
so.
So you have a commission that's aware of a lot of things that are going on, and you're interacting a lot with what's going on, so we appreciate that. And, you know, it helps, be persistent, and,
Anything
you know.
that's good for the town is good for me.
Absolutely. Any other public comment? Pete?
Yeah.
I know, we got that little leaf pile on the left-hand side. I've been watching that myself for 2 weeks. I've been watching it for 2 weeks.
The pile in front of Jason's house has been there since Halloween. I know we had weather, but it's as bad as every year. It should be an embarrassment. That, sure, it all got snow covered, but the leaf pickup is seeing every road except for Water Street. Water Street's covered in it. Another year that I'm just like, why do I bother?
It's,
Last year, I took 6 trash cans up to the leaf dump because they weren't coming for it. And I was doing my yard and my neighbors. And it'll probably be the same thing this year. And the lawns, what's humorous is, I had a leaf pile there for 3 weeks. They came and got it, the lawn's dead. The same day they came and got it, I happened to be out back cleaning up the yard. I put on another leaf pile. They got it the same day.
I will say your leaf pile's a little harder to see, because I think you mow yours, don't you
No.
back yours up and mow?
I have
Does
a,
it look like they're
very fine.
They're very fine, yeah,
I have a Cub Cadet walk behind
yeah.
8.5 horsepower chipper. This thing turns it to dust. I mean, that pile was my yard and my neighbor's yard. When I use the other one, it's huge. And now the rain, of course, is helping it, but yeah, to me, I still don't sense, if you've got, how should I say, regions or whatever for voting, you should be using those same regions for scheduling the leaf pickup. Not like when they, oh, we see piles over here. Post it by regions. This week will be region 1, this will be region 2.
They do have a schedule, Pete, they do. They have a routine they
So
follow.
are you recommending, Pete, that we fine tune it even further?
Yes.
District 1 is going to be the second week of December, the second week of January, no matter what. If the leaves are down or not, it's gonna
Well,
be. And
they said they started in October, or I forget the date. But you could say that leaf pickup will be on this cycle. Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3, starting on this Tuesday will be Zone 1. The next Tuesday might be Zone 2. The time in between, you know, weather permit, it's just something, because it's been so random for 3 years in a row. All I knew was I would do my best to have it out there by Monday morning.
Well, I know they did their best getting started early this year.
It did start early, but
And it's just,
I know
it's
weather.
very hard to convince these trees
Yeah, that was
to
the
fall
problem.
all at one time, you know?
I got 4 trees and I get
Yeah.
everyone's leaves. I'm just very frustrated. The second part is, I'm not trying to stir the pot.
That's right.
The snow clearing. Not ignoring the plowing. When it said shoveling, what are they shoveling? I'm just curious, town buildings, properties?
What do you mean, hand shoveling?
Yeah, right.
And the leaf has shovel.
Could have said in there shoveling, so I'm asking.
Community
Oh,
center.
sure. Community center,
Business
town
districts,
hall,
town hall.
Riverside Park,
Riverside Park.
the sidewalk
I-
downtown.
Yeah, the sidewalk.
I was just curious.
Yeah, municipal parking lot.
And obviously, not all of those people could be out there.
Yeah,
There'd be probably one guy
Right.
helping the one shoveling guy that we use from our department.
yeah. I
Just
just,
having enough people to pull from.
even though it's gonna change shortly, hopefully, being that I'm unemployed, you know, that would be, I'm like, how do you get on that list?
Can we add
Speak
Mr.
to Mr.
Coop?
Speak to Mr.
Can we add Mr. Coop's name to that list?
I mean, as needed, there's eventually, I'm supposed to be starting a job,
I
with
have
things
no
that change.
problem with it. Anybody have any problem with Mr. Coop being added to the list?
business
We
again.
have Mr. Coop.
We have a motion to add Mr. Coop to the list.
Second.
Thank you.
Questions or comments?
Was this added, was this advertised, the list? I forgot. I mean, I didn't even think about asking that.
No, I believe that was under the director's jurisdiction.
I'm just young, like I said, it's,
Yes.
there's gonna be time.
We have a motion.
Yes.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
He's not a resident. Why should I oppose it?
Well, I don't know, I thought Mr. Rothstein was the fellow here with her.
Yeah, that's okay.
Well, like I said, I think it's possible.
Thank you, thank you for speaking.
Either or. I didn't have to walk with a snow blower.
Come on, we gotta have one more public comment.
Three for three.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Why does it have to become such a hullabaloo when a council person, any council person up there, wants an answer to a question? I'll ask the attorney,
I don't know, I try to answer.
I mean, if I was Adams and Growski, I would want the people in the public and whoever watches the tape
No, look, I mean, I.
to know.
Yeah, I mean, I.
If that is the case, then that's great.
Forget jumping in a truck. I mean, I have previously opined, and again, there is a local government ethics law. We follow it here, and I would certainly not let anyone on the council, and I don't think anyone has tried to use that. Adam is right now working as a contractor for this township on a much bigger project than just jumping in a truck. I specifically opined, again, because that was a open public bid, everybody had an equal shot. That's why he had to recuse himself from the one invoice. That's appropriate. And again, we are in a small town. I feel the same way here. Also, by the way, just with respect to, whether it would be Mr. Snyder's child or anybody's here's child, or let's say a professional. Let's say I want one of my son Kyle to be on that list. He might need to pretty soon if he doesn't have a job. It's unfair. But my point is that we do actually have an anti-nepotism policy. It's in our personnel policy. It's one of the standard ones. And that provides that you can hire somebody like that, but if it was, I don't know, if John Snyder has a son that would be involved, he can't directly be disciplined or reported to by that person. That would have to jump to somebody else. You can't, that's where we draw the line, and, both legally and in our personnel policy. I think we make sure we follow it. And as far as the personalities on the council, when you have 7 people in any room, you know that. There's always personalities.
It just seems that
It's not-
nobody should badger anybody else for asking a question.
This town's looking for long, far better than some I've seen. You should be able to pack on once in a while.
For
It's
entertainment,
crazy.
I might.
It's
But
crazy in some of these counties.
Couldn't that have been settled very simply by, on that list, putting on there volunteers' time?
Linda, I actually, until I opened up email, I didn't know I was on the list.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a good thing you volunteer your time, but just in fairness to you though,
right.
how many people out there in the public may not know that you volunteer your time?
I'm not looking for,
Well, no, I'm not saying that, but in fairness to you, if you volunteer your time, why can't it state that on there so that everything is very transparent and clear and nobody has to go through?
Well, I think we actually, the resolution, Adam, if he does do it this year, we don't want him donating his time, so he will get paid. So that's why I left it on.
But they personally decide to donate it to the fire department, I don't go.
It's your privilege.
Linda, you have any other comments?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, go right ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I just think that transparency is not a bad thing. This is why you all sit up there. So I don't think anybody should be badgering anybody about asking any of you asking a question. I just really don't. It just doesn't, it's a waste of time. That things could be handled ahead of time. Really. And I've never seen in all my experience kudos for you for asking for that ability. But on the other hand, what is the policy for saying snow shovelers? Should it be on our website, advertised, so everybody in town? It's all about transparency and.
The transparency is that John Snyder has always been under his purview. He decides, he gives me a list. That's it.
Okay, all right, but that came up tonight
And I think if he had to advertise, he'd probably just say, forget it.
well, I don't think that.
Because he picks the people that he knows he can depend on.
Right, but what I'm saying, recommendation from the attorney, maybe wouldn't it be a good idea so that everybody has a fair, and he could look at a list and do a decision?
That's a council decision. If they want to advertise for any positions, they could. There's nothing preventing it. And
Okay,
there's
but
nothing
then
preventing it.
Teresa is saying that isn't council's position, it's John Snyder's
Well, I'm
position.
saying,
They could change that.
I'm saying they could
Okay.
change that and decide that they want to advertise or have the right to see.
But he has always, in the
They'll-
past, and it's never been any different. Not when you sat here or anybody else. Mr. Snyder has always made those decisions that he was going to shovel and shovel. And so I'm just giving you the facts, not saying whether they're right or wrong.
Okay, but I just think, things could run a lot smoother
Yeah,
if
and
people
the other-
just
the other
gave
thing-
an answer and moved on.
The other thing with the part-time, particularly with the seasonal winter, like snow plowing and shoveling, most of the townships that I represent, Linda, if you're hiring permanent, regularly scheduled part-time, yes, that's generally advertised, just like you said, so that the word's out there, etc. But the problem with advertising for this, you generally need some type of job description, and oh, we're gonna call you if we need you, is a tough, so a lot of
No,
times.
and I
for this
understand
type of
that.
limited, it's not uncommon, honestly, for it to be delegated like this, or not advertised, and you kind of go through the regular part-timers. Franklin Township does the same, so I think it's okay to delegate here. Council at some point down there could take it back if they wanted to, but this is, for this particular, call as needed 5 or 6 times a year.
Right, and it's
Most
not
people
easy to
don't.
get people a
Yeah,
lot of times.
most
I
people-
understand all that, but say if you have somebody watching this videotape, on YouTube, and they say, oh, you have to now come to the council meeting to be put on that list. I mean, I just look at all the angles and you try to do what's fair to everybody in the town. So, thank you for addressing.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah, thank you.
We have no executive session